So if you've been on SoundCloud for a minute, you've probably heard this particular kind of transition effect used a lot. It's kind of like, oh, it sounds to me kind of like a womp sound with like a filter. This is what it sounds like from some songs. So alucard uses it a lot. Here's another song. So I love that effect. I think it sounds so good. And it is like a preset with this particular plugin that comes with FL Studio, Fruity Love Filter or something like this. I don't use FL Studio. I've used it like one time, but I know that sound is like a preset in Fruity Love Filter. I use Ableton, fortunately or unfortunately, so I can't use Fruity Love Filter. Also because I'm on a Mac, I think. So I have spent like many hours trying to reverse engineer how to create that effect. And this is how I do it. Do that effect in Ableton without Fruity Love Filter, with just doing it with raw like filters and stuff like this. So here's what it sounds like in my song. I think, so that's how close I could get it. I think it sounds pretty authentic. And here's how I do it. It's literally, so I'm on the master track right now, and it's really just a low-pass filter. It's literally just like a low-pass filter. It's literally just a low-pass filter, and then you just need to automate it in a very specific way. The general look, so this automation lane right here is the one that manipulates the actual frequency, and it's this kind of shape. And the important part is that it's like wow, wow, wow. The end part needs to be really scooped out to give it that sound. So that's one part. That's the most important part. So you just load any low-pass filter and you're already on your way. You just do the automation. You should use a bit of resonance also. That helps a lot with the sound. I'm at 32%. And really just, I mean, that gets you very close. I've used just that in many songs. And if you really want to kind of kick it up a notch and make it sound really authentic, there's this kind of phaser flanger kind of sound in the one from FL Studio, as far as I know. I can hear it sometimes, and you don't get that with just a plain auto filter or low pass filter. So if you really want to get that, and I'm getting it kind of now in this one, the way I'm doing it is I'm using a dry wet control. And so FL Studio, I believe, has this baked into like the signal chain or whatever. Any plugin can have a dry wet. Ableton doesn't have that, unfortunately. I'm not going to explain how to make it because I don't really know or understand it. I just search for like Ableton dry wet device or something like that on YouTube, and you'll just find it. That's how I made this. But basically, you can make your own rack that has a dry wet control, and that's what actually I can get that phaser flanger sound even without a flanger device, just by actually turning down the dry wet as the effect rolls. It's pretty authentic. So maybe I can just quickly make it all the way wet. Here's what right, so that's what it sounds like without the dry wet control. It's just the low pass filter. And then when I add the dry wet automation that slowly takes away that effect over time, it sounds like this. And you can start to hear some of that phaser flanger sound. One last tip is that it helps to have some like cymbals or high frequencies to really get that sound. Hope that was helpful. That's how I do the Fruity Love Filter effect just with stock Ableton plugins, and I think it sounds very accurate.